taking following the announcements of any items being pulled from the consent agenda. Speakers registered for non-consent items other than public hearing and zoning cases will be taken together prior to those items being acted upon. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items within those blocks that they have registered to speak. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. I'll call the meeting to order.
Tonight's invocation will be provided by Dr. Christopher Dardar, Senior Pastor of East Point Church of Christ. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledges of allegiance.
Father, we love you so much, and we're thankful for this opportunity to come together tonight in order to take care of the business of this great city. We ask that the things that are shared tonight and done tonight will be pleasing and acceptable in your sight and will be made for the betterment of the city of Fort Worth. We love you and we need you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Give us 1 minute, folks. We have some minor technical difficulty here. Okay, thank you for the delay, or being with us through this delay. So we always love it when our mistakes are caught on camera by our local media. Our first item of business will be special presentations, and the first one will be a presentation of proclamation for Pathfinders' 25th anniversary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and to all of our residents here. Welcome to the City of Fort Worth Council meeting, our first one of the new year. Welcome to 2023. It's a great privilege this evening to recognize Pathfinders' 25th anniversary. So for those of you who are here on behalf of Pathfinders, if you don't mind, come up and join right behind me. So as a reminder for those of you that may not be aware of the amazing work that Tarrant County Pathfinders does, this is an organization that was incorporated as Family Pathfinders of Tarrant County, a 501c3 organization, and later shortened to Pathfinders, with a mission of empowering individuals and their families to find their path from poverty to self-sufficiency. In October to 1997, Family Pathfinders formed the goal of enlisting community support for welfare reform efforts by partnering with faith and civic groups to match volunteer mentors with families on their journey to self-sufficiency. In October of 2022, Pathfinders celebrated their 25th anniversary, which we now recognize in the Fort Worth Mayor and Council meeting. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas, originally named as Tarrant County Family Pathfinders, and whereas established in 1997, Pathfinders is a recognized leader in adult mentoring and financial capability and has received numerous recognitions from the Department of Health and Human Services and accolades from multiple organizations throughout Fort Worth. And whereas Pathfinders serves more than 1,000 families annually through mentoring and financial coaching to help eliminate poverty and move families to economic stability, demonstrating Pathfinders' positive impact in creating a more equitable community. And whereas we are pleased to celebrate and honor Pathfinders on their 25th anniversary and for the group's continued commitment to the Fort Worth community and all who are involved, and may it there now be, well, goodness, and hereby recognizes and celebrate Pathfinders' 25th anniversary this day of January the 10th. Congratulations to Catherine. I have to say personally, numerous times I've called you and your staff to help with different initiatives here at the city. They always answer yes and are great collaborators, not only within your organization, but other nonprofits in Fort Worth. So for that, we're incredibly grateful. If you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome, please.
Mayor Parker and council members, thank you so much for honoring us with the special recognition today. It's really the icing on the cake for the culmination of a year-long celebration of 25 years of service to our community. We are helping families build better lives, and that's good for our city and for our community as a whole. We enjoy such a wonderful relationship with the city, particularly around financial empowerment initiatives, and we look forward to many more years of working together to make our beloved city as wonderful of a place as it could be. So thanks again so much, and go Frogs!
Thank you all very much for coming.
Our second special presentation will be a presentation of proclamation for the Fort Worth Police Department Crisis Intervention and Response Canine Program.
And I believe Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck will be presenting this proclamation.
Hello, I'm Officer Kelly French with the Fort Worth Police Department. I'm on the Crisis Intervention Team, and this is Wookie. He's in training to be a critical incident response canine. The Crisis Intervention Response Team is a new program implemented by the Fort Worth Police Department Crisis Intervention Team. Part of the CIT's mission is to increase the effectiveness of police departments' response to assisting those in mental health crisis. The CIRT program further augments the abilities of CIT by utilizing the skills and abilities by Therapy Canine. The CERT Canine may be utilized to aid in law enforcement-related activities, including, but not limited to, peer support, community events, comfort to employees during or after a crisis situation, school activities, mental health responder, and investigations divisions. This program is designed to affect and improve the lives of everyone around, including the canines. And because of that, we're only utilizing rescue dogs. When we located Wookie out of the North Animal Shelter, he was skin and bones. He didn't want to eat anymore. He didn't like his environment, the loud, large dogs barking. So we took Wookie out with the trainer, who was the handler, and she said that he met all of the criteria to go ahead and become a crisis intervention canine in training. So now we have Wookie.
Well, if you can't tell tonight, council's kind of gone to the dogs. So we're really excited tonight to have some great members of the community and our CIT team from Fort Worth PD here to recognize some people that made a really special program happen for our city. And I can tell you that my colleagues and the city secretary's office have all been fighting for who gets to pet the dogs first. And the truth is that honor went to me. I had the opportunity to pet both Wookie and Echo before the council meeting, and I already feel much calmer and at ease as we start this process. So I think I'm claiming them for me, and I think my colleagues would appreciate that as well. So with that, whereas the Crisis Intervention Response Team, the CIRT, is a new program implemented by the Fort Worth Police Department Crisis Intervention Team in part to increase the effectiveness of the police department's response to assisting those in mental health crisis. And whereas the CIRT program is a paradigm shift on police canines by utilizing emotional support trained canines that will focus on improving internal officer mental wellness, as well as be deployed within our community in many different ways. They can assist after traumatic incidents, help reduce anxiety in some victims, and participate in the community or recruiting events. And whereas the program is dedicated to improving the lives of all of those who are involved, including the canines selected. To that end, Fort Worth PD CIT will only utilize rescue dogs for the program, which includes Wookie, a Catahoula leopard mix rescued from our very own Fort Worth Animal Shelter, and she's acting right on cue, so any parent in there can appreciate Wookie. And Echo, our black lab, rescued from California by Canines for Freedom and Independence. Echo might be much better behaved, yes. See, we all feel better. We're not even done with the proclamation. Whereas the CIRT program would not be possible without the generous support of the following incredible individuals and entities. Rory Topham and the board of the John and Jane Justin Foundation, who has agreed to fund the program for a full 5 years. Jay Jerrier and the Cane Rosso Rescue Foundation, who has funded much of the initial equipment outlay for the program. Ken Shetter and Grant Summers, and the Safe City Commission and One Safe Place for partnering with Fort Worth PD to expand advocacy outreach for the CIRT program. Janine Baggett and Canines for Freedom and Independence for training Echo and Wookie and donating Echo to the program. And Heather Weeks, Rebecca Jankowicz, and Tiffany Downs with the Almost Home Rescue, Texas, who rescued Wookie from the Fort Worth Animal Shelter with days left before he was set to be euthanized. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate the support and creation of the Fort Worth PD Crisis Intervention Response Canine Program. And we've got proclamations for everybody, and then our office has a little go bag for one really well-behaved dog and then a really sweet Wookie. And then, oh, well, do you want to say something first?
I just wanted to really quickly say first to Mayor and Council, thank you so much for your support along with our administration in our mental health mission. Without it, we wouldn't be where we're at today. I also want to thank our donors again, One Safe Place, Safe City Commission, Almost Home Rescue, Canines for Freedom and Independence, the Jane and John Justin Foundation, and the Cane Russo Foundation. And lastly, I want to recognize the CIT team. They're all standing in the back. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we're at today. I appreciate it. Thanks. Guys, come on down.
How are you? Don't get too close.
We do. Our next presentation will be a presentation of recognition for the library's Spanish-speaking GED program.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Manya Shore, and I'm the director of your Fort Worth Public Library. It's tough to follow cops and dogs, but I'm going to try. I want to first invite our students and staff to come down and join me. And as they're doing that, I will let you know that in 2019, we identified a critical need in a community that has more than 25% of our population that is a native Spanish speaker. There was no free Spanish language GED class in the entire county. So we started one. It became the library's first virtual program in 2020, and we've kept it virtual because it works for our students. They don't need to travel or to find childcare, especially since our students come from all over the city and every single one of your districts. We've even added an evening class this past fall because of increasing demands. Our current instructors are Miriam Hernandez, our public education specialist, she'll wave, and Sylvia Quinones, who is our library assistant. They currently have 44 students in their classes, and as of a couple of weeks ago, we have graduated 20 students to get their GED. We could not do this without community donations to the Fort Worth Public Library Foundation. They cover the cost of the textbooks, the cost of the tests, and the cost of a graduation ceremony. That's about $300 per student. At the Fort Worth Public Library, we continue to expand Spanish language programs and services when we identify a need, including in-person and virtual ESL classes offered citywide. We're piloting a class at La Gran Biblioteca this spring to prep for the U.S. naturalization test. We offer Spanish language computer skills classes and healthy cooking classes in partnership with Texas A&M AgriLife. And we offer bilingual family story times and Spanish language parenting classes. We are committed to our Spanish-speaking population. But tonight, we are here to celebrate our students who have successfully passed and earned their GEDs. So I'm going to pass it over to Miriam. She's going to translate everything I just said, and then she's going to introduce our students.
Buenas tardes, ella es Manya Shore y es la directora de la Biblioteca Pública de Fort Worth. En el 2019 identificamos una necesidad crítica en una comunidad que tiene más del 25% de hispanohablantes. No había cursos gratuitos en el condado en español para el examen del GED. Entonces empezamos uno. Se convirtió en el primer programa virtual de la biblioteca en el 2020 y lo hemos mantenido virtual porque es lo que mejor funciona para nuestros estudiantes. No requiere salir de su casa o encontrar guardería, especialmente porque nuestros estudiantes vienen de todas partes de la ciudad. Incluso hemos agregado una clase en las noches desde el otoño pasado porque ha incrementado el interés en el programa. Nuestras maestras actuales son Miriam Hernández, especialista en educación pública, y Silvia Quiñones, asistente de biblioteca. Ellas tienen 44 estudiantes actualmente y hasta hace unas semanas hemos graduado 20 estudiantes. No podríamos lograr todo esto sin las donaciones de la comunidad a la Fundación de la Biblioteca Pública de Fort Worth. Ellos nos han dado fondos para los libros de texto, el costo de los exámenes y la ceremonia de graduación. Esto es aproximadamente $300 por estudiante. Tenemos más programas y servicios para nuestra comunidad hispanohablante, incluyendo clases de inglés como segundo idioma que se ofrecen en toda la ciudad, presenciales y virtuales, Estaremos probando una clase nueva en la sucursal de la Gran Biblioteca esta primavera para la preparación del examen de naturalización de los Estados Unidos, clases de computación en español y clases acerca de cocina saludable con una colaboración con Texas A&M AgriLife, horas del cuento bilingües y clases de apoyo para padres en español. Sin embargo, hoy estamos aquí para celebrar a nuestros estudiantes quienes han pasado exitosamente y obtenido sus certificados del GED. Se los vamos a presentar. La primera es Sandra Castrejón. Levantar tu mano. Cintia García. Jessica López. Zulma Rodríguez. Esmeralda Ramos. Y Marisa Iníguez. Gracias.
We're going to take a picture, but I think it goes without saying on behalf of the entire council, we are so proud that you took the time to come here tonight and recognizing this important program, but more importantly, the individuals that make our community so special. Congratulations for this incredible honor tonight. I know how hard it was to get to this place, and I hope that the City of Fort Worth made that journey just a little bit easier. And to the library staff for always dreaming big, that's your mission, and we really, really appreciate all the work that Manya and her entire team do. So thank you very much.
Our next presentation will be a presentation of the 2022 class of aspiring young lawyers summer camp.
Thank you. I'm going to read some remarks from here, and then I'll ask Suzanne and Sonia to join me, yes, you too, Sonia, in the well. I know often people wonder, you hear about students at school not achieving and just wondering, well, what's going to happen to our kids? Well, I can tell you, because of the Envision Center, big things are happening that give me a lot of confidence in what's going to happen with us and our kids. My mom doesn't like the word kids, but you know what I mean. The Aspiring Young Lawyers Summer Camp started 2 years ago, just a couple years ago. L. Clifford Davis Legal Association past president, Angel Williams. Is Angel here? Okay, so you'll join me too. Angel Williams had the vision to create a summer camp for high school students who wanted to be attorneys with a focus on minority students. The idea was to create a long-standing pipeline program whereby aspiring young lawyers could get an inside look at the legal profession and at the same time connect with real lawyers who were working. Summer 2022 was the third year of this project, and I'll tell you, the Envision Center came to us probably, Fernando, was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago? And it came from the Trump administration, and I showed up for a photo op, and I was wondering, well, how much money are we going to get? And there was no money. But Fernando said, you just have to envision what could be. And Suzanne Richards has really helped us dream big. There are so many wonderful things happening at the Envision Center, which is housed now at the MLK Center in Stop 6. And so this year, 14 completed the program, 10 are with us tonight. And Suzanne, I'm going to ask you and Sonia to join me, and I will call out the names of each of the youth when I get down there with you guys. And when you hear them, I want you to be real happy to see them. And it's funny because the youngest ones are the longest ones who had to wait. And so thanks for staying up late, and I'll see you in a few seconds.
Oh, no falling.
All right. As I call your name, please come And Rachel's going to get a real good photo that makes you all look real great. It'll make us look skinnier. There we go. That's it. Onu. Onu. Let's see if I can pronounce the right name. Onu Amamingi. Okay. So we'll save that one. That means we may have 9. Gregory Anderson. Gregory, we're going to get a picture. We'll put you over here in the middle. And you show it. Don't leave. The next is Madison Corzine. At least we don't have any pets hanging around down here, messing up dresses. Drelon Creer. Draylon Creer. How often do people mispronounce your name? They call me Gina. Next is Haley Davis. I know how to move. So next will be Abby Myers. You must be the class sweetheart. You got a lot of them. And we're going to take a big group picture. I want all the folks from the council to get ready to come down. Next is Yukimi Opiange. And I think I have probably 3 more. So next is Kennedy Pascal. So Suzanne, did you require beauty and good looks for everybody? Next is Kenneth Peters. So council members, get ready to come on down. How tall are you? Wow. Glad I don't have to feed you. Denise Smith. And those are all the names I had. We do have those who didn't know were coming. So I'll get with Suzanne and make sure we give everybody theirs. So Rachel, tell us how to pose.
Okay. Bring the kids in.
Kids in front.
Kids in front, y'all get in front. See, we'll gather around you.
Oh, Al Cooper Davis, by all means, the association. A lot of people. Come on, come on.
Okay, Nikki and Angel and Chris Lord. We got a few lawyers on councils. Yeah. To talk to you. Absolutely.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Now y'all gotta count to 3. Where's Madison? I saw Madison. Madison, get down here. You okay? Okay.
Right here?
Did we get the parents in this picture?
Okay, everybody right here looking at me. Big flash right here. Right here, you're gonna leave. There you go. Don't blink, Councilman.
Okay, hold on, spell it again.
There you go.
You go ahead.
Did you want to go?
Yeah.
Okay, this is all the parents.
Parents, please come. Loretta, come on.
Yes, parents and supporters.
Parents and supporters. Suzanne, tell me about
That's okay, you did the work.
like to come up? And we'll post this on Facebook.
Give them another hand. It's quite an accomplishment. And thank you, Pastor Dordor.
Our next item of business will be items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
There we go. We have two items to withdraw from the consent agenda. They are M&C 23-0018 and M&C 22-0016.
Next is items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
There are no items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
The next will be consent speakers, Mayor.
Our first speaker is Peyton Jackson. We'll be followed by Adrian Smith.
Congratulations on the 50 vouchers, but it sounds like we have gas and no car. But anyway, Happy New Year. Parker, did you miss me? I missed you too, twin. Law number 13 of the 48 laws of power states to appeal to their self-interest. Let's test it out. Now, if you hear yourself mentioned during this name drop, I promise you I'm not picking on you. It just means that you are one of the few on this dais that I still have faith in. Let's eat. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Bivens administration was responsible for shortening the housing wait list? It would. Crane, I am more than confident that the Black community is willing to overlook your involvement in gentrification if, and only if, you're responsible for making more of us landlords, giving us the say-so in the averages of our rents. No shade, you see, I'm a capitalist and a real estate investor myself, but facts are facts. Dr. Williams, now, out of everyone here, you are the one that I respect the most, for more reasons than I have time. But I would love to see the Williams administration saluted for another great deed, something like bringing tax deductions to those who need it the most, the middle class. Councilwoman Beck, I've watched you for some time now, and I have to say, you are one phenomenal woman. And it would warm my heart to see your administration acknowledged for your efforts in providing a passive source of income, which is taxed the least, if at all. Now, if you missed that message, I'll recap. We can shorten the housing wait list by making more of our residents landlords, providing tax deductions to those who need it the most, while also providing a passive source of income. But back to the rest of y'all gonna have to come up off something. And if you're ignorant to code switching, you're going to have to compromise. See, one of the things that you may have to forfeit is going down to those construction sites, picking up hard hats and shovels just to toss around dirt for all of 45 seconds for a nice photo op. That and those donations, you see, these developers aren't going to be as friendly. But back to the betterment of this community and not the expansion of your pockets. If y'all want to sit around and pretend like we can't allot a budget for a program like this, then that's fine. If you want to ignore the fact that we can partner with local banks and credit unions to fund these properties, that's fine. Let's grab the tax lien list from the county and call it eminent domain, because isn't that how we got Central Park? But see, I don't actually expect anything from the majority of y'all. But understand that that is why I myself and many others in this city deem y'all as nothing more than political prostitutes. See, nothing I said had anything to do with this ordinance, but unfortunately, the last public comment meeting was on the 6th of December. The next one isn't until the 24th of this month.
Did y'all think that that was okay? But anyway, good luck with your campaigns and have a great night, council.
Our next speaker is Adrian Smith, followed by Bob Willoughby.
Greetings to all. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Greetings, council. It's a new year. It's an election year. Our new county judge, Mr. Tim O'Hara, conducted an interview this past weekend, I believe it was, on Inside Texas Politics. It's a great show that happens every Sunday morning on WFAA. One thing Mr. O'Hara stated during this interview, and one of the first things he stated was that the spending here in Tarrant County, you know, Fort Worth makes up Tarrant County, that the spending is out of control. Now, this particular agenda item, for those who have paperwork, you know, they tell you on the surface of these agenda items, it just gives you vague description of what it is that the council is to consider voting for. But like I recall at the last council meeting, you had to go a little deeper when you're trying to get a better understanding of what it is they are voting on. This particular MMC and the one that follows, to me, is just another act of wasteful spending on behalf of this city council, who to me have, since last year sometime, have been thumbing their noses up at this city and its taxpayers, because you all have been giving away taxpayer dollars without regard to business interests, developers, special interests. Let's not forget about law enforcement. So my question to you all, what is it going to take to get the spending under control? This project is $10 million, it's $10,625,000 to a business which has no description, has a name, Seals Before it Incorporated. And then the next MMC that's to follow, which I don't have to speak on because it's the same wasteful spending, $10,625,000 to Lake Country Chevrolet for the purchase of sport utility vehicles, vans, and trucks using Interlock Purchasing System Cooperative, whatever that is. I'm about to take my seat, but I'll be back.
Our next speaker is Bob Willoughby.
Oh, anyway, I'm kind of following up on what Adrian's talking about on our website there, and I've asked this before and before. They're not going to do anything. They never have. When you go to look up more information on any of these agenda items, you click over, you get a blank page. Big old blank page that can tell you a lot of things like, we're going to take away your right to speak at city council, and they did it. We don't speak here anymore. We're off the agenda, you know. I've asked them to move their public presentation to the bottom of the agenda, and when they saw there's nobody here, they'd go home. They don't. They went up front and make us sit here and wait for them before we go for zoning cases. Anyway, what I'm talking about is the website. And there's my group there. You can join me. Also, you can find my website there, which really takes you to what they're doing that they don't let me put up here. Now, I didn't like Bessie Price, but for 8 years, I put my website up here all the time. She never took it down. That girl takes it down, okay? And this is just really mind-boggling what they've done to our agenda, too, our speaking and all that. But anyway, it's just, you know, it's just, I can't wait till Election Day, I'll tell you, because we've got to change these. I'll tell you, let me put it this way. Anybody up there that would vote to take away our First Amendment from here, you can't trust them. I wouldn't trust them with my pet bull constrictor. I would not trust these people with them. They took away your right to speak. I'm surprised people didn't come down here with pitchforks and yell, but they didn't. That's how they got away with it. That's how they got away with it. They took from us, okay? And you know what? I'm going to offer them on the 24th on our next deal, $1,000 I'll give to St. Jude's Children's Hospital if they'll answer why they removed the public presentation from the council agenda. Very legitimate question. One of the most legitimate questions you can ask these people. And by the way, the premise of their job is to answer questions, not run and hide from you. I'm filming, they go, and David Cook runs off. I had a meeting with that man about the crooked John T. White Neighborhood Association, gave him all the evidence. You know what he does now? He runs. Woman said, hey, you got a beautiful picture of David Cook. His silver hair looks great. I said, well, mine's kind of silver too. But nevertheless, that's what they do. They run from you. We want council members that will answer, be Americans and care about the people, not yourself. That's all you cared about since you got in here. And I want the new mayor to hit the reset button and put this thing back like it was before you got here, like Bessie Price had it and before y'all got in here. We had 4 council meetings a month, 7 o'clock, put it back like it was, and if it gets changed, ask the people. I asked Jarrett, I asked Crane to ask the people. They didn't ask the people before they changed that. I went to them and said, hey, this is good, but tell the people and see if they want it. They didn't ask. They're not council members. They're phonies. They're fakes. Every one of them are fakes. Thank you.
Next item is the approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Got a motion and a second. Council, any other discussion? Please vote. Oh, go ahead, Jared. We did, yeah, we're good. Yes. Got a motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0018.
Do have 2 members that need to recuse on this item. I'll let Jared go first. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be participating in this item due to a conflict of interest related to my current employer, the Tanner Food Bank, and I'm going to abstain for any participation in any discussion or vote. Also, I filed a conflict of interest form, which is on file with the city secretary.
Thank you, Jared. And Michael?
And likewise, I am abstaining from this vote due to my wife's employer, nonprofit Child Care Associates, and as well, everything's on file. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And take a motion, council. Councilmember Beck?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0016.
Councilmember Crane? And future D6, I should say.
Yeah. Equally, I'm not participating in this vote due to my wife's employer, nonprofit Child Care Associates, and everything's on file with the city secretary's office.
I also won't be participating in this item due to my current employer, the Tanner Food Bank, and I'll be abstaining from discussion and voting, and my information is on file with the city secretary.
Motion, council?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel by council if needed.
Sure. Councilmember Flores, start first.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have a short presentation here to wrap up the events that we had tail end of this past year. December 14th, Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD hosted their holiday open house, and it was especially significant for them because they have a new central administration building. They incorporated the ribbon cutting along with some of the groups that came to celebrate that, And that building was funded by their bond program. So it's going to offer a lot of meeting spaces, flexible spaces for their administration. So kudos to them. Next slide, please. All right, I was joined by Michael Crane and Alan Blaylock over to celebrate our Code Blue volunteers, which I think go unsung frequently because they are the eyes and ears of public safety in our communities. So we had a big luncheon for them to celebrate that, along with Northwest Division and other PD divisions that were there to support them and give them awards. So thanks to our Code Blue volunteers. They are very important to us. All right, December 31st is a tradition that I like to do, for our first responders, for PD, for fire, and MedStar. Santa Carlos delivers tamales to all the stations in D2 and including MedStar to show them a little, appreciation towards the end of the year for all they do, especially those that have to work over the holidays. So it's very well received. Really thank them and appreciate them for what they do. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Councilmember Crane?
Yeah, quick announcement. I think I announced in December that Katie Wary was leaving the District 3 office. So I just wanted to point out Jack Carvalho here is rejoining the District 3 office. And Danelle Mason is here joining as well as District Director and District Liaison. So thank y'all for helping me out, helping the citizens out. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Firestone?
Thank you, Mayor. So before Christmas break, I was honored to attend the dedication of Perot Field at Alliance, a really special day. Of course, that was named after the visionary Ross Perot. It was a very moving dedication, a lot of great stories about Mr. Perot and the history and his personality, loved to play practical jokes on people and special friends. And we heard about that and really personalized, I think, the day quite a bit. The family was out there, including Mr. Perot's wife, children, and their families. We were able to tour the new FBO hangar out there in Alliance, which is a really special place. And I'm pictured there as well with Mike Berry, who's the CEO of Hillwood. And I don't think we can overstate it enough how in awe we are of Ross Perot Sr. and his vision for Alliance, and certainly what now Ross Jr. and the family, Mike Berry and his leadership, what they are doing at Alliance and what they're contributing to our community economically, in jobs and vision for all the work that they're doing out there. It's a special group, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Our next is Councilmember, actually, Councilman Nettles had a few things. I didn't want to skip you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, Happy New Year's to all you that are here. We appreciate you being here, a part of the process. I have a few announcements. This Saturday, the Stop 6 MLK Parade will be happening at 11 a.m. It will start in District 8 at the Renaissance Square, right there by the Walmart, 2900 Renaissance Square, Fort Worth, Texas. We will start the parade at 11 o'clock, and we will go down to Berry and end up at the park. Wilbarger Park, thank you, Gina, Mayor Pro Tem. Wilbarger Park with festivities, so come out and support the parade. Also, on Monday, we will have the MLK Parade downtown Fort Worth, January the 16th, 2023. Registration starts in person at 8 a.m., check-in is at 9:30, and parade line starts at 10 a.m. Also, I am grateful and excited to announce that we are back live on Facebook here at our meeting. So I'm going to ask you if you can go on Facebook and look up Fort Worth TV, spell it out, Fort Worth, and then the letter TV. We are live currently right now, so you can share it on social media. You can also like and follow it so everybody can stay engaged in the process. So I want to thank my council as well as Renee and all those that make this possible. So we are back making sure that the community has a voice. Thank you. Those are my announcements.
Here we go.
So we've got one upcoming event, and for those of you that are interested in what we're doing to make New City Hall a more sustainable place to house our city government, we will be hosting a sustainability workshop January 25th, 2023 at the Fort Worth Central Library. Unfortunately, due to construction, we couldn't have you at that beautiful facility that we'll be moving into shortly. If you have any questions or concerns ahead of the meeting, feel free to email Future City Hall, that's all spelled out, at fortworthtexas.gov. We hope to see you out there, and please make sure you share that graphic, and we get everyone involved that we can. Next up. All right, so for those of you that know me, you know that I take an annual trip to Far West Texas every New Year. And the reason that I'm sharing this slide is because this year I wore my nifty Fort Worth hat. And while I was 8.5 hours away in the middle of nowhere with no cell service, I ran into not 1, 2, 3, but 4 groups of Fort Worth residents. And I can tell you that each one of those, who all happen to live in District 9, by the way, but everyone that I passed and they saw that hat, they got so excited when they realized that there was someone else from Fort Worth. And as you're out there, you see people with Cowboys or Astros or whatever their favorite team is, and you don't ever see them greet each other the way that people from Fort Worth do. And I really think that it was a great reminder as we start this new year of what an amazing community we have. And we would not have that community without the people here on the dais with me, and then everyone you see out here to my right, all of our staff, and all of our community members. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everybody what an incredibly special place it is we have the opportunity to live in and serve, that it sparks so much joy even when you're far, far away. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's actually a perfect segue as I seek approval from this council for ceremonial travel. I was very blessed to get to travel on behalf of the city of Fort Worth out to LA to cheer on our TCU Horned Frogs. While it was not the result we wanted, it was incredibly special to see. I personally got to see over 5,000 Fort Worth residents on Santa Monica Pier. I had to apologize to Santa Monica mayor and said, I think we've taken over your entire town. We had painted it purple. But to Elizabeth's point, this city showed up in a big way for those young men that worked really hard this season to show up and show out for Fort Worth, Texas. So despite our loss last night, we made it to national championship, which is a huge accomplishment. Our enthusiasm as a city can't wait to see what next year brings. Coach Dykes, Max Dugan, that entire team are young men on the field, off the field, of high character and integrity, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So go Frogs, and with that, I'll seek a ceremonial travel approval from this council. Thank you. Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be the non-consent agenda speaker. Mayor?
I'm actually going to take these in order according to agenda item, Jeanette, so we can just roll through the agenda as to not confuse things. That makes sense to you? So we can go to the first item, okay? So first item is CP 324, renaming of the Hillside Community Center. Our first speaker is James Smith, followed by Cliff Sparks.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is James Smith. I live in District 8, and I'm a little bit perplexed for being able to speak to you on this particular issue. I'm a resident of Fort Worth of 65 years. I know Hillside Park like the back of my hand. I know Hillside Park before there was ever a community center there. Renaming the community center, in my opinion, would be a rebirth of change in the city of Fort Worth. There are new avenues that we need to travel in the city of Fort Worth. I know a lot of my opponents mention the historical aspect of Hillside Park. They mention their memories of Hillside Park. Well, here's the memory of mine. 50, I don't tell my age, but 50 some odd years ago, I made this pottery in Hillside Park. but I still have it. It's a memory. Hillside Park is slated to be, well, the recreation center is slated to be revamped, rebuilt. Where are the memories going to go then? When you push the building down, I'm still going to remember making this pottery in that building. My children played in Hillside Recreation Center. Their children are playing in Hillside Recreation Center. Change needs to come to Fort Worth, Texas. Change needs to come to the south side of Fort Worth, Texas. And Hillside is going to be the beacon of change on the south side of Fort Worth. I'm asking that you vote yes to rename the center in memorial for Tatiana Jefferson. Changing the name is not going to hurt anybody's memory unless you have Alzheimer's. I have to make fun of Alzheimer's because my grandmother had it and I took care of her 7 years. What I'm saying is progress isn't an easy thing to achieve, but it's achievable. I just recently learned of the opposition to this, although it's been spoken of down here for over 2 years almost. It's on the agenda, it should be voted on, and it should be voted for Tatiana Jefferson. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cliff Sparks, followed by Natasha Nelson, which will be a phone call.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Cliff Sparks, live in District 9, Elizabeth Beck. I just want to give a couple of shout outs to Chris Nettles for your hard work, Elizabeth Beck, Jared Williams. I'm here because the renaming of the Tatiana of the Hillside Community Center. I really believe that it should be voted on and it should go through. For the people that's against it, where have you been the last 3 years? Have you contacted the family and said, how you doing? Are you okay? What do you need? Instead of that, you guys want to complain about this, complain about that. You ain't showing no support to the family. You was there at first, the first day. Where were you at for 3 years? It's quiet as a rat house mouse right now. Because they know who I'm talking to, and they know what's up. So with that being said, all you fake preachers that's against it, sit down somewhere. Let the council do what they need to do to pass this thing and show love and support to the family. This will keep a Tatiana memory alive. So for those that's against it, go to hell.
Our next speaker is Natasha Nelson, followed by Giselle Leak.
Ms. Nelson?
I'm here.
Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, please.
Yes. Good evening to the mayor and the city council. What I would like to say is, for the past 3 years, you guys have had your rights taken away from you, literally silenced, where you could not say a word with anything that had to do with Tatiana Jefferson and her justice. That time is over now. You guys are free. You have your amendment right back, and it's time for you to exercise the power that you hold within those seats. And it's time for you to speak out from everything that you've held on to for so long throughout this long course to get justice for this woman whose life was taken away. Now, we do have opposers to this, but I can tell you this. You guys have been connected to the preachers and the churches for too long, and it's time to build a strong connection with the people, the ones that are actually making moves and making things happen. No connection with these churches. We don't attend their churches. We're not members of their congregation. They do not speak for us. And this is the time for you to exercise your vote and make sure you're loud and clear in naming this after Tatiana Jefferson. These preachers and churches don't clean up there. They haven't adopted the area to pick up litter. They don't take care of it. They don't have any events there. They don't have summer camps there. Back to school programs. They have no involvement whatsoever but to hold on to their history that has their name attached to it. But guess what? It's 2023, and this is Fort Worth's new history. And you guys have the opportunity to be a part of that history and to make history because you've been quiet for so long. So we're not going to listen to the preachers and the pastors. We're going to listen to the people. the people whose kids play there, like you heard Mr. James say, the people who actually go there and attend this community center. I'm not going to hold on to this old history any longer. So I beg you and I ask that you please do the right thing the same way the jury did and give us justice and let us memorialize the Tatiana Jefferson as far as we can take it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Seychelle Leak, who I think is also a phone call, followed by Donnell Ballard, phone call.
She tried on that call.
Hello,
We'll see if this one's any better.
Speaker?
Yes, this is Seychelle Leak.
Please go ahead. You have
Mr.
3 minutes.
Firestone represents. Hello, good evening. This is Seychelle Leak. Mr. Firestone is the representative of my district. I'm calling in on behalf of the renaming of Hillside Community Center. We would love to have it renamed after Tatiana Jefferson. The city has been through so much through this journey. Zion plays at that park frequently. We have so many events there for the last 3 years, and it would just be a wonderful way to honor the family. The judicial system did their part by giving us a taste of justice, and now it is on y'all's behalf to give it a little bit more of an honor. Amber is currently in the hospital fighting for her life, and it would just mean nothing more to her than to have that community center renamed. So I really hope that you guys do the right thing and vote yes. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donnell Ballard, followed by Claudine Brenner.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Donnell Ballard, community leader and a former resident. I used to live out there. I played at the Hillside Recreation Center, and I think it's more important now for us to remember who Tatiana Jefferson is. And what better way for us to remember Tatiana Jefferson with that recreation center being renamed after her. After 3 years, we need something different in our community. And I think I agree with Cliff Sparks. On this one, we can't listen to the minister. We've got to listen to what the people want. It is not about the minister. It is about what the people in this community want. And I believe that we should get behind Chris Dallas and get behind the family and making sure that we rename this recreation center after someone who has made a major impact for the past 3 years in this community. So I don't know what the minister's doing, but I am voting yes on making sure that her legacy lives on for life. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Our next speaker is Claudine Brenner, followed by Kendra Richardson.
Claudine?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes. I've called to speak in support, 100% unending support of renaming the Hillside Community Center in honor of Miss Tatiana Jefferson. This would not only be a beautiful tribute to the up-and-coming young medical professional whose life was so tragically cut short, but I also see this as a tribute to how beautifully the community came together and stood strong through consistent attacks and adversity. I may live in District 6, but my children grew up playing youth sports at Hillside Community Center. I've taken walks with Zion to that community center and to the park to just take a moment to step away from the madness and be a child. And I can't imagine how wonderful it would be for him to visit that park and see a Tatiana's name. Renaming this community center will give our youth a powerful name to look up to and provide a reminder to our youth that we are creating a future for them, not some rich white guy, not who we so love to name things after, but our children who frequent this community, who are coming up in this community and need something that they can relate to and be proud of. A place with a name and a legacy for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kendra Richardson, followed by Rukia Carey. Is Kendra here? Kendra. Can we call her, Kendra? We'll get call ready. Next call is Rukia Carey.
You can't make the system work. Okay. Next, can you call Rakia Carey? Is that one ready? Okay, great.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Rakia Carey. I live in District 6, and I always have as long as I've lived in Fort Worth. I am an Army veteran, as well as a stay-at-home mom to two beautiful little Black boys who I would love to be able to show them this new community center as a sign of hope. And I would truly for them to see an example being set by city officials. This is a new history, as so many others have said, because it is a new year. And I truly believe that Fort Worth is stuck in the same cycle of doing things the same way. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. It is not working. And I definitely did not serve this country to see an innocent life taken just for that woman's name to be demonized. What is so bad about celebrating the life of a woman who has changed the history of our great city? It just doesn't compute. And those who are opposing it, I really need everyone to understand that we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for an officer taking the law into his own hands. So the very least that the council members can do is change the name. The world will not end. If anything, it'll make our world in Fort Worth, Texas, a much more beautiful world and a closer community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Patrice Jones, followed by Alonda Massey.
Hello, Council and Mayor Parker. Y'all know that I'm in complete support of renaming Hillside to a Tatiana. My whole thrust into activism is actually was birthed on the Tatiana Jefferson. I actually came to the city in June of 2020 to see if I can get a mural for Tatiana Jefferson placed on Hillside Community Center. And guess what? The city told me no. So I found my own private building to have the mural right down the street from her home. And based on me getting that no, I'm really surprised that we even have to be here today. I thought renaming Hillside to a Tatiana was like a done deal. I didn't realize there was any opposition. I'm very disappointed there is opposition. And yeah, I just, the jury did the right thing. We keep talking about that. We waited over 3 years for justice for this family. And it just only makes sense to leave something for her. I know that Mr. James had efforts to want to rename 35 after a Tatiana. Not sure what happened with that. I know it was never changed. I know that Botham John, the street was actually renamed after Botham John in Dallas. But if you look at Allen, there's just toppers of a Tatiana Jefferson's name. It's not like we renamed the whole street after her, which Dallas did that. So the least that we can do, we're here literally begging for a community center that's directly behind her home, that her family works with, that my organization is going to work with, and we're in full support of this. I hope that y'all can find it in y'all hearts to do the right thing and just rename this center. I know I know we couldn't get police oversight, but I just hope that, y'all can give us this. We are always begging for crumbs, so let us have this one, y'all.
Our next speaker will be Kendra Richardson, followed by Alonda Massey. Alonda, hold on just a second. We got Kendra on the phone. I apologize. You were quick, though. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I apologize for my absence. I'm actually supposed to be there in person, but I got caught up in traffic coming from work. My name is Kendra Richardson. I'm the founder of Funky Town Fridge, a community fridge ran by the community here in Fort Worth, Texas. And I wanted to just make sure that I said what I needed to say in order to let the city know and whoever is watching know that I am indeed in favor of renaming the community center after Tatiana Jefferson. I think that this city owes her that, and the city government owes her that, not just that, but her family. And they actually owe her way much more than that, considering that their police was the reason of this woman's demise and the reason why we want to memorialize her name in the first place. I think she deserves it and her family deserves it, and her family deserves way more than that from the city of Fort Worth. And that is, in renaming that community center is just the bare minimum of what y'all can give to that family, consider all that y'all taken away from her. So we can give them at least this one thing to let them know that the city is standing behind them and not just a 10-year manslaughter case. And that's all I have.
Our next speaker is Alonda Massey, followed by Anthony Humphrey.
Mayor, council members, good evening. My name is Alonda Massey. I live at 4729 Pine Ridge in Mr. Williams District. I own property at 1114 East Jefferson in Mr. Nettles District. And I had a statement written here, but I'm gonna wing it because I'm sort of moved by everything that I've heard. I want to express my disagreement with Mr. Nettles' proposal to change the name of Hillside Rec Center without a town hall meeting. That's what I'm asking you to do, Mr. Nettles, is to open it up outside of here, outside of this chamber, and hear from more than the people that have attended here in the past to show support for Ms. Jefferson and everything that happened to her, which, by the way, we do. And we think that the council should do things to honor Ms. Jefferson's legacy. But we need to be able to talk to more people than just the ones that have attended here. In 2021, I want you to know that we had a Hillside reunion where people who grew up there came out of our pockets, rented out the Hillside Center. Nobody here spoke about that because they weren't there. But we rented the center. We didn't have any contributions from a church, no organization, no corporate industry. We did it, and we had a reunion there, and we celebrated our time that we spent at Hillside. I did it, my parents did it, my children did it. I grew up there. There were people who contributed to the Hillside community, like Miss Winston, Miss Irvin, DeWitt Booker, Julius. They contributed to the community. So if you want to rename it, I think it's worth hearing more of the community's opinion about it, because there were other people that actually, this is not about Miss Jefferson's legacy, but this is about, there were other people that also contributed to the Hillside community, and we want to be heard. We want you to come and listen to what we have to say about other people. Mr. Hogan is right there. His cousin was killed at Hillside. Most of these people that are speaking and calling in don't know that. We were there. So there are more people that are here and that are around and that are from that area that would like to be heard. This is not about the legacy. I cannot stress that because I can't stress it enough, because we supporting this city, this council supporting Ms. Jefferson's legacy, but give us a chance to speak too. Please, thank you for your service.
Our next speaker is Anthony Humphrey, followed by Adrian Smith.
Mayor, he dropped off and we have not been able to get
Mr.
him
Humphrey.
reconnected.
Okay, is Adrian still here? There he is. Adrian, come on up. Adrian will be followed by Douglas Spellman.
To the historic Southside community, the Hillside community, those who are here tonight on behalf of this proposition. Before I came here tonight, I was able to catch a news coverage from WFAA stating that there was a division within the community when it's coming to this particular proposal. I just want to say to WFAA and anyone who feel that there's a division that, I feel that it's not a division, however, there's a need for understanding. The Bible reminds us, with all thy getting understanding. We know this is an election year, and I'm not going to go into that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us not to judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Hate isn't a complexion dynamic, but a character dynamic. Racism isn't a complexion dynamic, but a character dynamic. Consideration isn't a complexion dynamic, but a character dynamic. For people who say that this community is not together, I want to remind people that this community is together. We do recall this, right? This just happened like, what, maybe a month ago? This right here? Seems to me that this community was together when it came to ensuring that this rogue police officer was convicted for the murder of Mr. Tatiana Jefferson. So to this community and to those who are, it seems like there's a division, you all, let's not leave here with that in the air, because I don't believe there's a division. I believe that there just needs to be some understanding, some better understanding. And as the sister stated, Mr. Nettles, this does solely falls up on your shoulders, sir, because this is your district. So, as y'all see, I'm on neutral ground. I'm neutral. But I think what the sister stated, it wouldn't be nothing wrong with that, to have a community town hall. I don't see nothing wrong with that. See nothing wrong with that. So, as I take my seat, you all, remember, this didn't start 3 years ago. It actually started 7 years ago. Don't forget about Jacqueline Craig. And don't forget that this council had an opportunity back on November 8th to join together the community in policing with an agenda item, but they voted it down. I got receipts, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I have receipts. The Fort Worth Council rejects Policy Advisory Board, sinking key equity recommendations. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Douglas Spellman, followed by Gregory Wesley.
Mr.
My name
Spellman.
is Douglas Spellman, and my name is Douglas Spellman to the council and the mayor, and this is not in opposition to the legacy of Miss Jefferson, but this is in support of an institution. Hillside Park was there before Fort Worth had single-member districts. Hillside Park was there before it was even assigned a zip code, 76104. We're talking about an institution. For those that want to throw history away and forget it, well, that's your option. But I choose not to. And like I say, this is not in opposition to Miss Jefferson's legacy, because that was a tragedy that should never have happened. But this is about an institution. Hillside is an institution. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gregory Wesley, followed by Francis Beeman.
Council members, dignitaries, my name is Gregory Wesley. I live in Forest Hills, actually, my mom's old house. My mother is Miss Doris Jean Winston. From the time Hillside opened until her retirement in 1997, she worked there tirelessly. She lived and breathed Hillside. She was there from the time it opened till she retired in 1997. Even then, she was the last one to leave. During that time, she made sure Hillside provided the community with everything that was afforded the more affluent areas. She was not going to allow the children of the community to be shortchanged because we were the South Side. She was always told no, but she refused to accept no for an answer. My mother would not accept the things she could not change, so she changed the things she could not accept. That's why she fought for wood basketball floors. She fought for additional room for events in a kitchen to provide cooking lessons. She fought for the swimming pool. She fought to provide experiencing, attending plays at Casa Mañana, going to the museum, exposing kids to things that they would not otherwise be exposed to. My mother and the staff, Julian Russell, Margaret Irvin, DeWitt Booker, and Filio, in collaboration with Miss Lucille Williams and the Hillside Morningside Association, provided Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, ceramic classes, and employment opportunities. Let's not forget about the kids. Hillside was the only center to have skate night. Then there were the basketball teams, cold blue and softball teams that dominated. The karate programs and after-school tutoring and GED programs that she provided. The first tee golf program coming up, intervention and gang provision, and addition of weight room. My mother was the community, and the community was my mother. That being said, I don't oppose the legacy of Atiana Jefferson. It was a tragedy, for sure. However, what the community is asking for, like he said, the town hall meeting, they're asking for an opportunity to have a say-so, because they have people, like my mother, who they believe are also deserving of the community center name. And what I'm trying to get you to understand, Hillside was a rec center. It was not a community center. She could have sat there and rolled out basketballs, and pool balls, and all those things. But she chose to get involved in the community, and she had a deep connection with it, and they had a deep connection with her, along with her staff. And so, like all the people have said, we have nothing against naming Tatiana Jefferson.
Thank you,
However,
Mr. Wesley.
thank you.
Our next speaker is Frances Beeman by phone, followed by LaDonna Myers.
Ms. Beeman?
Good evening, council members, Mayor. I'm sorry, the echo, I'm at the hospital, but I do believe Hillside should stay Hillside. I'm sorry for the death of Tatiana Jefferson, but we should do something else and make her legacy live on. We can, when they do the new gym, build a science wing on there, so kids can come in there and learn about science. They can redo the playground. They also can do another swimming pool at Hillside and name it after her. And also, the police department will have some type of program, so they can teach them when they have a phone call that's welfare check, how to go and do the welfare check. Like one of my neighbors, he stated that back as we grew up in the neighborhood, if somebody's door was open or something that didn't seem right, we went there to their house to do a check for that person, to make sure each person was okay in the neighborhood. Like if something happened on my block, I'm gonna go up there and check on the people at the house to make sure everything is okay. I'm sad for what happened to Tatiana Jefferson, but and for people to get mad because people are against it, you don't have a heart either. Because everybody's supposed to have their own opinion. So I feel like everybody else, we need to have a community meeting before y'all even decide to change the name. And my daughter, she said the same thing, but she's not on the agenda, so she can't talk. And my kids, they all go up to Hillside. My kids, my great kids, my nephews, my nieces, my great nephews. We have events up there. We have a reunion up there every year for everybody who's in the neighborhood to come back. We're on our second reunion. But I thank y'all for my time. You already got the street named after us. They can do something else.
Ms. Beeman, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
You have just a
Did
few
you hear me?
seconds left. Yes, ma'am. You have about 15 seconds left.
Well, I'm done. I just thought that's what I feel. I feel, we all should get together, have a meeting before we even think about changing the name. Go through the neighborhood.
Ms. Beeman.
I just found out about this a couple of days ago.
Thank you, Ms. Beeman. Our next speaker is LaDonna
You're welcome.
Myers, who I think is also by phone. And then
Ms. Myers? Ms. Myers?
Yes, yes, I am against changing the name because I fully believe instead of becoming a place of healing and coming together, it would be a flashpoint of a rogue officer with the very worst outcome possible. That would always be what the name carried. And what we want to do is honor Tatiana, and that we need a good, like TCU, to give a scholarship in her name that much more honors Tatiana. And it keeps the Hillside 51 and the South Side flavor that we have had. My dad bought property here before it was even incorporated, and he did not pick up and run, guys. He stayed. We have stayed. The family home is here. Off Miller Avenue. I'm in Gina Bivens' sector, District 5. And we need to talk about it before we change the name. And I think we draw trouble when we change the name. We're really putting a rogue officer's actions we're memorializing it, and that's not what we want to do. We do not want to do that. We want to bring people together, and we need to talk about it, and we need to Tatiana a good scholarship to honor her. And we have changed the name of the street and the name of the freeway, and we have honored her, and we do need to look at Miss Krog for those that are trying to build, the one that is trying to build his own kingdom on Tatiana's pain and name, shame on you. You should be building Fort Worth. You should be building Fort Worth. Yes, your heart is too small. Yes, increase it, enlarge it. Let's build Fort Worth. Thank you.
our next speaker is Pamela Howard. Is Pamela here? Hi, Ms. Howard.
Good evening to the council and and the mayor. My name is Pamela Howard. Wait a minute, let me put the glasses on. My name is Pamela Howard, and I come to address the renaming of Hillside. I respect of anything that would be honoring Miss Tatiana Jefferson. However, Hillside is a pillar in our community. First, I started going to Hillside around 3rd or the 4th grade while attending our Mother Mercy. We went to Hillside for PE and basketball practice. Hillside Gym is still a place of refuge for a lot of children, teenagers, and after school, when they get out of school, they can go there and know they will be safe. Hillside is our historic landmarker of the South Side. There are numerous people who show love and respect towards students and adults alike. And I can name a few of them: Miss Winston, Dwayne Filio, Margaret Irvin. These people here actually gave a lot to the community. And I feel like that we can do better by doing a memorial, like a plaque, and it tells you in front how she passed and how things have changed, because she was killed by a reckless police officer. To name a few other places that you can do is they have a craft room, computer rooms at Hillside. Those types of things can be named after her. But renaming the whole entire gym of Tatiana Jefferson, take good memories and spoil the beautiful and meaningful relationships that occurred there at Hillside. There is a lot of chatter on Facebook and other social medias who don't agree with renaming Hillside. I actually inboxed Chris Nettles and talked, I don't know if he was seeing it, but I did inbox him from Facebook. I don't know if he remembered, but your brother married to my cousin. We have a mural of, on Evans, a picture of her. Okay, Hillside is dear to others, and I would like to believe we can come together and meet in the middle and honor this beautiful soul of Tatiana Jefferson. Hillside is more than that of a building. It is a whole life of its own. And I hope and pray that we can get this thing together, and the town hall would be the best way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. I believe that's the last of our speakers, council. Before I turn to Councilmember Nettles, I'm going to have Richard Zavala come down for just a minute and kind of give us an update on the process, and then I'll turn it over to Councilmember Nettles.
Good evening. I'm Richard Zavala with the Park and Recreation Department. Let me just give you some background first on the park, and then I'll talk a little bit about policy and how we have handled namings of facilities in the city of Fort Worth. Hillside Park was actually acquired in 1911. It was named by the park board Hillside Park at that time. And the board had the authority to do that prior to the 60s when it became administrative board. The community center was built in 1970, and like many of our other community centers in the city, we just simply adapt the name of the park to the community center. Some examples: Diamond Hill Community Center, Northside Community Center, Chisholm Trail Community Center, which is located in the park, Victory Forest Community Center, and on. Most of them are associated with the park name, and for the park names, they were either bestowed by action or simply just we adjust to what the community name is or what the street frontage name is. On occasion, there have been parks that have been named after historical figures. We have Martin Luther King Park, we have Gooseneck Bill McDonald Park, Quanah Parker Park on the east side. And so when we get to individuals, we in the past, historically, we have done that for historical figures. We have a Lincoln Park as well. And of course, we have Ralph Bunche Park on the southeast side, the Nobel Prize winner. Individual park names for people under the park and facility naming policy, which is not a policy of the council. It is simply a policy of the department endorsed by the park board. We try to associate, if we're going to name after an individual, contributions to that park or the park system as a whole. Doesn't mean that you can't name it something else, but if you have 1 million people in the city and you're trying to narrow it down, you want folks that made contributions to the park system. Some are named after gifts of the land, such as Amon G. Carter Park. But in the end, the council has the authority, under a resolution adopted in 1980 and amended in 2005, the sole authority to name parks or facilities or libraries or buildings or whatever it might be in the city. You just saw the Ross Perot Field that was shown earlier. That was named by council action through M&C last June. And there are a number of examples like that. I can give you some more if you'd like to hear some more. Doc Sessions Community Center was named by the council. It was previously Riverside Community Center. Eugene McCrae Community Center and Eugene McCrae Park was named by the council under a council proposal. and that was done in 1998. And at the same time, the park board recommended naming Lake Arlington Park in honor of Mr. McCrae. And that park is named Eugene McCrae Park at Lake Arlington. So I hope that gives you kind of a sense of historical park namings as well as policy, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
It does. Thank you, Richard. Council members, any questions for Richard? If not, Councilmember Nettles, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Richard, for articulating that information very well tonight, giving us a sense of park history, when Hillside Park became, and then how we created the community center, and we named the Hillside Community Center after the park. I'm not gonna address everything that was said tonight because we wanna move forward, but I do wanna thank everyone who came out tonight and gave their opinion, their thoughts, and their concerns about the Hillside community. And I will say, this is that type of forum. We have an open policy where you can come down to City Council and you can voice your opinions and your thoughts about anything in the city of Fort Worth. So thank you for doing your due diligence tonight to come down to let me hear your voice tonight. It has been great. I do want to kind of shift gears because now, after the gag order and the contested court hearing, I have the ability to actually say something about Tatiana, and I want to make sure that we get that name correct, Tatiana Carr Jefferson. It's important that when we deal with that, we pronunciate her name correctly. That this family has experienced something that a lot of us have not sat at the table and experienced, or not willing to experience. I have had opportunity to visit her sister, who has been in the hospital. I have opportunity to visit with Zion and his brother Zayden and spend time with them. And if you can feel the hurt, the pain that they go through, you wouldn't even understand how to move forward. And so I think it's part of our job as the city of Fort Worth, as elected officials, elected by the people, by more than the ones that are sitting here, to be the voice for our community. This is not something that has just come up out of the fly when you saw the newspaper on December 13th. This is a conversation that's had taken place for a few years now. I've met with Richard Savalas on the park, on the community center. I have met with community members and some leaders that are trusted by other people. Everybody that calls themselves a leader don't mean that they're a leader. And I think that's important that we express that opinion as well. Tonight, I have heard on both sides. And I understand there was a meeting that was called by one of the pastors here yesterday, and I did send my representative to go and hear the concerns and thoughts. We have taken that into consideration. We have talked with my staff, and so we want to come to a compromise, and we don't want to beat a dead horse into the ground. And so one of the things that we heard is that we want Hillside to continue to keep its legacy. People remember Hillside for being Hillside for what it is. And there are ways that we can do that. Number one, we're not going to rename, or it's not even on the docket today to rename Hillside Park. So Hillside Park will continue and remain Hillside Park. The very thing that was existed before the community center was there was Hillside Park, and that will remain. One of the things that we heard is about why change the name. And so one of the agreements or compromise was to keep the name in there, to name it Tatiana Carr Jefferson at Hillside Community Center. That allows the community who has this desire and has this heart to have a Tatiana name that's in the backyard of the house that she was killed in, name on a center. And it also allows to keep the historical name Hillside on the building at the same time. I truly believe, as being a reasonable man, a man of faith, a man that has sat on this city council, that is a great compromise. You keep Hillside and you're able to add her name. We go an additional farther and we add a historical marker on either the outside of the building or the inside of the building that gives the history of Hillside. I think one of the ladies talked about the several names of people who have shown up or who have worked in the kitchen, as the guy talked about. We can add those names to the historical marker. And the only way we will come up with that historical marker is hearing from the community, allowing you to help draft up that historical marker so that you can go to that place and say, I helped write this, or the community helped write that. That is a way to keep the historical marker. And so that is some of the things that I'm proposing tonight. So I'm asking my council to stand with Hillside, but I'm also asking my council to stand with Tatiana Carr Jefferson's family. This family is knowing that this is going to happen tonight. They cannot be here because of Amber's illness. And so those are my thoughts tonight. I want again to say thank you for all you that came out. And I'm going to make 2 recommendations tonight because when we do a CP, which is a council proposal, we have to waive the rules in order to even vote tonight. And so the first thing I'm going to do, I don't know if anybody else has something to say, Mayor, but I will yield the floor before I do that if anybody else has something to say.
Perfect. Any other council members want to say anything? No? Okay. Go ahead, Gina.
Thank you for allowing this time. When Chris and I talked about this earlier, it just seemed very appropriate to me. And like many people, I learned at a late hour that there was opposition. And I hate that. But I listened to a few people and Mrs. LaDonna Myers, who identified herself to be a District 5 resident, used the term rogue officer. Another speaker used a descriptive that made sure the public didn't tie the actions of that officer with the police department as a whole, and I think that that's a good thing. What I know, just based from my conversations with Chris, is we're at a critical hour for the only surviving sibling of a Tatiana. And there's just something very emotional for me about that. And so I like the compromise, but I have to support this motion. And I think it does bring a very unique descriptive and a new descriptive for Fort Worth. Because this is the first time in our city's history that a rogue officer had been found guilty in a murder of a citizen. And it shows advancement for some when you take a look at the legal system. But I just keep seeing Zion, and I keep seeing the need, the hurt, and I would not want to be a part of the body that dashed all hopes he had of justice, of respect, of admiration. And so I don't know, Chris, how this vote is going to go, but I am very proud to stand in support with you for the reasons I've stated.
Elizabeth, do you have something to say? Your thing's on, just making sure. You're the second, okay. Okay. You, what, Jared? Do you have something? No. Okay. Before Chris makes his motion, I've already told Chris this, so this won't be a surprise to him. I'm just concerned, as he said, with CPs, you have to suspend the rules to vote. So normally you would have to wait another few weeks. We continue a lot of items, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Jefferson family right now, but I'm also listening to community that is concerned about their community center and where their children grew up. And so I'm struggling with that, admittedly, on suspending the rules. But I do know that Chris has worked incredibly hard to get to this place and has got a decent compromise on the floor. So I'm just articulating my feelings on that. And out of deference to my council member, I do appreciate the work that you've done. But we continue a lot of items in this body, and some many much less contentious than this one, or where there's concern surrounding a certain renaming. Chris, I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for your comments. And I will move to waive the requirements of the council rules of procedure 5.21 to allow for the council proposal to act upon this city council meeting, which is introduced.
So a motion and a second. This is just the vote to waive the rules, council. Motion carries. And now, Chris, the second motion.
Thank you. I'm going to make an amendments to the original CP. I move to approve the CP with the following amendments. 1, to provide for the installation of signage and visible to the public inside the community center that tells the history of the community center, with particular honor paid to the name of Hillside that is shared with the park. And 2, to amend the name of the community center to Tatiana Carr Jefferson at Hillside Community Center.
Got a motion and a second. Council, any other discussion? Yes. Go ahead, Gina.
In my neighborhood, we have a public art display, and it's titled Our Ancestors. It was established before I was elected, and it was supposed to recognize the early and original settlers of historic Carver Heights. Now, Carver Heights is the first development built in Fort Worth that did not come about because of white flight. But the people who built their homes there were known as Teacher Hill. They were teachers and doctors, and they were able to copy houses they saw in Tanglewood. Unfortunately, not all of the early settlers were recognized. And so that became a point of consternation for some people who knew that a house built in 1949 should have had the owners recognized in that art. And just so you know, it's behind the zoom in off of Rosedale and 820. It's a lovely trail, thanks to Commissioner Brooks. I share that with you because those of you who want to take advantage of the compromise my council peer is offering, you will have to get involved. And what happened in Carver Heights, they tried to remedy the correction, but it just never happened. And so I just support the compromise, Chris, but I also tell those of you who do not see the vote possibly going the way you want, is I encourage you to be involved so that whatever additional names end up there, you will have a say and a proper forum to share your input. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other discussion, councils? Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is 23-0003.
We have no speakers on this item, council. Motion and a second, please vote. Motion.
Next item is 23-0007.
Councilmember Flores.
Just ready to make a motion.
Go ahead, motion.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second, please vote. And thanks to Janice, Dr. Niebel, for all of her service on the MedStar board. Motion carries.
Next item is 23-0004.
Councilmember Beck will recognize you, and thank you to your hard work to put this motion forward this evening.
I appreciate that.
I also appreciate all of my colleagues' eagerness to get this passed. So I just want to take this opportunity, it's CIT night on council. I want to take this opportunity to really thank the police officers that raised this issue to us here on council. I think the headline that came out while we were in council really speaks to what we're doing here. And it says, let me find it. Roaches, rodents, and mold. Fort Worth City Council to vote on regulating homes for elderly and disabled residents. And that's really what we're doing today. We are taking a step forward to make sure that we are protecting our most vulnerable residents from some really predatory practices here throughout the city. And so with that, I enthusiastically move to approve.
Got a motion and a second, council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 23-0005.
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-0988 with report by city staff member Captain Marcia Conrad.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Marcy Conrad, and I'm the captain over investigative support, and that encompasses the schools and the youth section. The purpose of this public hearing is to review whether the city's curfew ordinance should be continued for 3 more years. The state requires municipalities to conduct 2 public hearings to review and approve the curfew ordinance every 3 years. Tonight is the 3rd public hearing. Public hearings were held November 29th, 2022, and December 13th, 2022. If the City Council does not approve the ordinance after today's public hearing, the curfew ordinance will expire January 14th, 2023. If the curfew ordinance is approved, it will be in effect until 2026. In the past 3 years, since October 2019, the number of curfew citations has actually decreased 59.7%. And although there is no tangible mechanism to measure the absence of crime, it is believed that the number of citations has decreased due to the reduced number of juveniles on the streets between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. This ordinance is not used often, but it is a good tool for officers in the field to address juvenile-related issues. The police department, marshal's division, and municipal prosecutors have not experienced any problems with enforcing and prosecuting curfew violations. The public hearing should now be open for public comment, and then the City Council should consider approving the curfew ordinance MSC. So just to review this, 11 curfew hours means 11 p.m. on any Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, until 6 a.m. of the following day, and 12 a.m. until 6 a.m. on any Saturday or Sunday. Safety does continue to be our #1 priority, and preventive measures such as curfews are paramount during the months when school is out, and especially during the summer. But conversely, curfews are also important when school is in service. We are already dealing with an increase in minors carrying guns and other weapons to school, fights and other disturbances during normal school hours. Having a curfew also gives officers another tool to hopefully prevent the number of crimes that involve juveniles from increasing. It protects the kids from potential predators, alcohol and drug use, and maintains general peace during hours when people truly need to rest. This also lessens the chances of them getting involved in juvenile violence and crime. Parents often feel assured and relieved having their kids at home and not on the streets at certain times of the night, not to mention the safety issues such as driving and hanging out during late hours, which can put teenagers in risky situations. A curfew also helps them to avoid temptations like drug use, alcohol use, violent acts, sexual risk, and partying. The curfew also helps set boundaries in the teenagers' lives. Having a curfew also gives officers another tool to hopefully prevent the number of crimes that involve juveniles from increasing, protects kids from potential predators, and maintains general peace during hours when actually people truly need their rest the most. So we also, I know the last meeting, public hearing, there was questions about notifications to the public. So we have had an article, flyer, and graphic were created to notify people of the public of the curfew. A city news article ran January 6, 2023. Information was also included in the January 9th council preview story. Social media post ran January 6th through the 9th, 2023. And this included Facebook, Nextdoor, and Twitter. So again, I just feel that our department feels that it's a win-win for everybody because it's a safety for the kids, peace of mind for the parents and the community, and it lessens the workload on the officers in the field. So thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Will Dryden, followed by LaShondra Huggins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, my leader. What else can I say that she didn't say already? Very well put. I have just a couple of comments. It must be extended. It's a very good deterrent for crime, deters crime in this age group for all the reasons she mentioned. Must be enforced to be effective. I have a little bit of doubt that it's been enforced as it should be, and the collection of fines as a result. So I would consider asking you to make it public notice that this is in force, kind of like we did the West 7th situation with drinking and some other things. So the police need this very badly. The public needs this badly. We don't need any more crime. Thank you very kindly.
Our next speaker is LaShondra Huggins. I think LaShondra's here. Next speaker would be Tamara Hutcherson. Tamara will be followed by Carla Palmares.
All right. Hello, Mayor Pro Temp, and council members. My name is Tamara Hutcherson, and I live in Council District 9. I urge you to vote no on this curfew ordinance. There is no practicality of enforcing this ordinance, nor has data been provided to show whether there is a correlation between crime statistics and curfew violations. This ordinance criminalizes our youth. The informal report provided to you all on November 15th of last year shows the statistics on how this ordinance has disproportionately impacted Black and brown youth from 2020 to 2022, which is approximately 65%. There's also no information as to whether these citations financially burden families, with no data on the dollar amount given for these citations issued if the fine is not to exceed $500. The city manager must issue a report that includes the number of persons successfully prosecuted for a curfew violation for this ordinance. Since 2020, there have been 120 violations issued, and 65 of these cases are still open. Does that sound successful to you? It serves no use, it curbs no problem. Please abolish this ordinance and vote no. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carla Palmares.
Good evening, Council. My name is Carla Palmares. I also am coming to you today to ask that you vote no on this baseless ordinance. Curfews are archaic. We are in 2023. We know that the youth, they have a lot of folks that have been impacted by this curfew are young folks in high school. They're participating in programs. They are, usually getting their first jobs. So having a curfew that can potentially criminalize them for being out at a certain hour of the day or evening is just simply poor policy work. The language in this ordinance requires that City Council thoroughly evaluate the impact that this has had on the city. As Tamara had previously mentioned, we see that this disproportionately impacts Black and Brown communities. So as you can see, that we have not been provided any thorough follow-through in this reporting that was provided. We need to know how this impacts parents, how this impacts our youth. This is just another way to put kids and youth in that pipeline to prison, and these citations are baseless just by having them being out at a different time of the day. So I'm asking you to vote no. You know it's the right thing to do. Many of you come up here and talk about progress and what we need to do for our community. It starts here, and this policy needs to be left again in the archaic times. Thank you so much.
The last of our speakers, council. I can take discussion. Councilmember Bivens, go ahead.
Sometimes I have a warped. Somebody else. Okay. Sometimes I have a warped sense of humor, and I'm not going to ask anyone this, but I really wonder, do police really see this being important? I just don't know. And Will, you're the one who made me think about that, because you talked about what appears to be the lack of, citations and stuff, so I just don't know. But what I want to call on Renee, because Renee's office has done quite a bit of work to try to get the pulse of the public as we know it. Renee, am I catching you off guard? Well, talk a little bit more to give you time to get to the microphone, but I was asking Dr. Williams, where did it come from? And we really don't know. And so I'm just going to ask you to tell us what you know from the public's viewpoint, Renee, and that'll be my only question.
And before Renee speaks, Adrian, you do have 3 minutes, just making sure I was confused. We had a public hearing item. So Renee, go ahead, and then we'll have Adrian come speak.
I think our charge with the Communication and Engagement Department was to help notify the public that there is the public hearing today, which I was glad to see the participation in and with. And one of the challenges that we face is just due to the timing. Once the council decided they wanted to actually engage in that and postpone the decision that was made, it was the month that most families and school districts are actually off. And so we worked as we could during that time period with the ISDs. We did send the note out to the president of the Fort Worth ISD School Board, and she was able to post that for us, as well as include in the Fort Worth ISD parent newsletter and other partners that that was mentioned previously that we put out is through our internal platforms as well as external partners.
Thank you. And I do know that I had given Chief Noakes some suggestions that he thought he could implement as well to get the word out. But I'm still at a loss for where it come from and why. So I'm just curious. Hi, Adrian. Sorry I took your time, but the mayor gave it back to you.
It's all good.
Go ahead, Adrian.
It's all love. It's all love. Hey, so we're back here at the MNC 22-0988. Now, where is she at? Thank you. She stated that, officer stated that there was consideration given to the community to try to get this information out. I know you all recall the last council meeting as I stood here. We did have a continuation, and thank you, council, for giving us that continuation. However, council, did you all do your homework? You all had homework to do, and that was to help with the efforts of getting this information out. Now, you don't have to openly say you did or didn't do your homework, but you had homework. You had a homework assignment. Now, as far as the curfew ordinance, all I stated last time regarding this curfew ordinance is we have to consider who this is really going to affect. You all know that the homeless population here in Fort Worth is on the rise. The homeless population here in Fort Worth is on the rise. And a lot of that is contributed to our youth. A lot of our youth are becoming homeless. So in the midst of all this curfew talk, my question is, how will law enforcement, quote unquote, interact with the youth within this city who find themselves out the curfew hours in the streets? I just ask law enforcement, please, to take in consideration who you are interacting with, because we have a lot of youth who are coming from broken homes, who are actually, their home has become the streets. As far as the crime element, I can't speak to it. More or less, we know there are some things going on. I hope that we can get to a place where we could provide something for the youth to where they say, hey, you know what? The city is giving us this. They invested in us. So when it's all said and done, from whatever it may be, we'll go home and call it a night. But I stand with the youth. I stand with, also, any way you want to, the way you curtail crime, we need law enforcement to patrol. They need to get back to the basics of patrolling. None of these districts have law enforcement on continual patrols. None of the districts. And we're having 2 new districts added. So I asked the Fort Worth Police Department and its leader, Mr. Chief Noakes, to speak to your captains or whoever are the leads of these various divisions to have their officers to get back to the basic patrolling principles that help to curtail a lot of potential crime occurring. And with that, I take my seat.
Thank you, Adrian. Councilmember Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Some of my questions were answered, but I did have some concerns on this item. And I did also have several conversations with staff, and one of the concerns I had was based on the standard for reasonable suspicion, and this ordinance would, in fact, authorize that standard being someone who's perceived to be a minor out after the curfew, which was a concern for me. I think it's a particular concern, not only as a father 2 weeks in the game, but also as someone who grew up in Fort Worth, in Southwest Fort Worth, played football. There was many nights where our game would end. We may play in Mansfield or Aledo, and we'd come back at 12 a.m. And my dad had a board of education, and it wasn't represented by people. And he allowed me to go to IHOP and stay out probably till 2 a.m. with the cheerleaders, the band, et cetera. And so that's something of concern for me. The other thing is, after reviewing the data, and everyone knows I like data, I've learned that since 2020, 120 minors have been cited. And I'm especially concerned that the data showed a disproportionate effect that over the past 3 years, African-American youth made up 32% of that. And that could have been me coming home from IHOP after we whooped up on Mansfield Summit, which is where my wife went. The third thing I would say is, I know community engagement did their due diligence to try to get the word out about this, but the reality is that we need to be engaging parents and students, and many families like mine were doing other things during the holiday New Year season. I also was concerned that there wasn't any data to support how this ordinance, either correlation or causation, addresses teen-related issues. And we don't have that outcome data to justify and warrant extending this. And so I'm concerned about what that data is telling us on this issue, which basically shows that curfew violations are a very small problem relative to the number of residents we have in the city of Fort Worth who are minors. The data also shows disproportionate impacts on our African-American youth who look like me. And while I appreciate the efforts of staff for working on this, even over the holidays, I also recognize that the level of engagement that we really need on an issue like this is difficult during the timing that we had. And I've seen us do a really good job with community meetings and stakeholder engagement, whether it was on STRs or impact fees or whatever the policy issue was. And I'm a little concerned that we didn't do that here, especially because our students and parents really need to be the voice of that. And I hope that when baby Janelle becomes a teenager, I would also have a voice in that. And so while I understand staff's intent, I also understand the context in which this ordinance may have been necessary in the 90s. I don't think this ordinance, as it is, will address the challenges that our teens are currently facing today. At the very best, I could propose maybe a 30-day extension so that we are not bumped up on the ordinance, but I still don't support this ordinance as is.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. There's a couple of things, I'll try to be brief. A couple of things that Jared did, Dr. Williams did present out. I think one of the ladies presented too, and I want to kind of echo those thoughts too about the necessary need of this ordinance. And when we look at the numbers that we have, and I want to say, first of all, thank you for allowing us to extend. I think Mayor Pro Tem and I had a lot of questions and concerns about this ordinance because we could have voted on, I think, a couple of times before. And so thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for helping us move it to here and to get the word out. One of the reasons why I wanted to get the word out is to make sure, because people was asking, do we have an ordinance? A lot of people in the community did not even know that there was an ordinance that existed. And so it was very important to me that we got the word out to let them know there was an ordinance that does exist. So when we look at the numbers, in 2020, there were 72 felons. 2021, there was 19 felons. And 2022, there were 29 felons. In 2020, 54% of those felons had no plea. In 21, 63% of those felons had a no plea and it was still open. And then in 2022, 100% had no plea and files were open. I worked in the court system at the judicial system at the sub-courthouse where we did misdemeanors and truancies. And what happens is that when you have those no plea, they stay on your record until you dispose of them or get them off your record. And if we're gonna end the pipeline to prison system in the city of Fort Worth, especially in the Black and brown community, we have to end it at local levels in the ordinance so that we won't continue to put them into the system. And so looking at this, I don't think that it's working. And frankly, in 3 years, we have only had 120 findings out of over 900,000 people that live in the city of Fort Worth. So are we really wasting our time busting our gas when we could really be doing real work in the system to help our young people, as in using CCPD funding to not fund buildings to harbor armed Bearcats and use that fund to go into the community and teach our young people, make sure that they have what they need, or if they are hanging out, what's going on. So I think there's other ways that we can handle that. So again, I said I was gonna be brief. That's one point I wanted to make. There's other points I can make, but tonight I won't support this ordinance and keeping it effective for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Councilmember Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to add to the conversation, and this has been, I think, a very constructive conversation that we're having. Looking again at the numbers that have been provided, curfew violence by race and ethnicity, for those that have been cited at C misdemeanor for curfew violations, under Black category 39, Hispanic or Latino 40, white 32. That's within a statistical range. I also want to point out that in talking to the court system and also to PD and other staff members, the number of curfew filings do not indicate overuse. There's nothing that directly ties that to it. These are just numbers. Among major cities, Fort Worth has very few curfew filings per capita. In a 2-year period, there was a total of 48, and that's an average of 24. Our municipal court stated to me that they do slightly better than 50% response rate to those curfew citations issued. And again, that's better than peer cities. And it's also important to note that there have been no warrants issued for arrest or curfew violations. That doesn't happen. And it does not go on these minors' records or affect their future. It's a C misdemeanor. Options, what can they do? Violators can plead guilty or no contest or request to go through the teen court system, which we have, and they have a jury of their peers, of teens, that decide what restitution they pay. So the teen court is judiciously used. It's effective, not just a tool for police, but it benefits residents and businesses alike. And I want to notate 4 points to keep in mind. Parents, custodians, guardians, I'm a parent, I have kids, have a legal and moral responsibility to keep their children safe. Having a curfew ordinance also, I think, assists in learning social responsibility. While we are here debating the efficacy, and it is a topic of debate, we do have anecdotal information that it could and does in some cases reduce the opportunity for crimes committed by minors, but more importantly, also reduces the likelihood that minors could be victims of crimes. A positive feature of curfew laws is that they can be used for a means of identifying children that are at high risk if their crimes start elevating to a higher degree. And it's also likely that minors who are out late during the night and early morning hours may lack some supervision. Now, I tried to do a little deep digging into some numbers, and I'm not going to belabor that point here. But looking at the data that we have for districts 2, 4, and 7, they were the highest in curfew filings. There is some correlation of percentage of population under 19 years of age per council districts that may in part account for the curfew filing percentages that show D2, D4, and D7 as having the highest in the city. I went back to the census data and pulled that. That is, generally speaking, the larger the under 19 population there is, the greater the statistical probability of curfew violations. Okay, so keep that in mind. But for now, those are some of the things that I wanted to share with the council.
There are speakers on this item, council?
Yes, Mayor, I
Go ahead,
had
Chris.
thank you. I did.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. There was another point I was going to bring out, and I was going to bring out until Councilman Flores brought out his point and dished out the black and the white and Hispanic race. And so the point I wanted to make is because I want to make sure it's important that we're not carrying the water of other folks. And so when he talked about, I want to go about to 2021. District 2 had 26%, District 4 had 21%, and District 7 had 36%, where District 8 had 0, and District 6 had 1%, and if District 5 had 1%. And when we look at the correlations and doing the redistricting maps, we know that the majority of black and brown folks live in District 5, 6, and 8. And so in 2021, those districts were the lowest in the percentage where the curfews was violated. But you look in District 2, District 4, and District 7, in the census, it tells us that those are minority white individuals who live in those areas, which has a spots of black and brown in those communities. And so one of the problems that I had with this ordinance is that the high places that we have the curfew violations are in the same location where more white folks live, but in 2021 we had more black folks violating the curfew. So if this paper is telling me what it's saying that if you're in an area where mainly white people live, they are calling on the curfew of black folks, and that is why I have an issue with this ordinance. I wasn't going to state that, but since we're carrying the water of other people, I think it's important that that be mentioned today. So again, this is why I do not support this ordinance.
Council, any other comments?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you. Stats was brought up, and disproportionality, when you look at 32% of African Americans representing this data, that's double the proportionality of the population. You could run a chi-square test of independence if we want to do statistics to determine the significance of that, and I guarantee you it would be significant. The other thing I would say is if this ordinance actually worked, Rashad Ginyard and Kelvin Brewer, who are both high school students gunned down after this curfew, would still be alive. Furthermore, for the past 5 years, over 120 kids have lost their lives to gun violence. That's 5 classrooms worth of kids. I don't believe in going back to District 6 and telling my residents that we did a good job with an ordinance that ain't gonna do jack squat to keep our kids safe. And so I'm not supporting this.
Any other discussion? Perfect. We can close the public hearing. A motion to close the public hearing and act on the M&C number 22-0988. We can take a motion in a second, council.
Move to deny.
Got a motion for denial?
Second.
Second. Please vote. Motion fails. Entertain another motion, council.
Yes, I'd like to move to extend this ordinance for 30 days so that we can have a community town hall.
It does expire. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Extending the expiration date 30 days.
Sorry, can we just have some clarification before we vote on that? Because it was my understanding that if we didn't adopt it today, then it would lapse. And so from a legal standpoint, is there anything different that we would have to do extending it versus allowing it to lapse? And I just want to make sure that we're all clear before we take that vote.
Let me add real quick, could we make the deadline 30 days, or the expiration 30 days out on this ordinance? I can amend it, and then we come back 30 days.
Yeah, you're proposing to essentially adopt a curfew for 30 days, is what you're saying. Yeah, you could do that.
So essentially, voting to adopt the ordinance on the floor, but just for 30 days, would expire in 30 days. So allow us to talk about this some more and come back for a final vote to extend it beyond the 30 days, if that makes sense. Go ahead, Gina.
I think it would be very important to get some information of substance from the police department so that they can weigh in with what I call real information. There are some people who feel that the street racing that takes place, that's the reason why we need curfews. I would submit to you that not until 2 of my neighborhood leaders met with police and we got a new commander, we focused on street racing and brought it down. And so I think there's some critical data that the police needs to weigh in with us to let us know, is it really working? Perfect. So I support whatever it is that we just said.
So it sounds like we have a motion on the floor on M&C 22-0988 for an extension of only 30 days for this current curfew ordinance. So it's as written in this M&C, but it would only be a 30-day extension as clarification for council. Elizabeth?
I can support seconding that motion. I just want to say for the record, when we came into this vote, I was fully prepared to support the continuance of the ordinance for many, many reasons. But what I heard tonight on this dais seemed compelling that we at least owed it to the community to have a real conversation about what this looks like. And I really appreciate PD, because I know you've been out here several times, and so it probably feels to you like, well, we didn't have this conversation initially, or maybe we should have brought it to you earlier. And I think that's fair. But through dialogue and conversation, there's been a lot of things that have been brought up, and I think it is only fair to our community and fair to the police department that we can have a meaningful dialogue. Yeah. But I do think it's an important tool that we need to make sure is available if we can justify its existence.
Yeah, and I would echo to Elizabeth's point, this item has been continued for over 30 days at this point. If this council has questions, you need to direct those directly to the police department. There may be data they can provide, and there may be data they can't provide, and they just need to answer those questions. But we need a definitive answer on this. Those of you that have had a teenager at times, especially when you're in a rocky spot this ordinance is immensely helpful to keep kids safe. And so for that, I'm incredibly thankful to this department. I have been there, done that, and it's not an easy phone call to make. So I'm in support of Dr. Williams' motion for a 30-day continuance. This allows this ordinance to stay in effect for 30 days. If you have questions, council, please get those to the police department to clarify so that when we come back again, there's no shroud of controversy. We have all gotten our information, and it may be that you're still not satisfied. That's okay, but they deserve to be able to do their jobs and provide that information ahead of time. With that, vote.
We have to do our homework, like Adrian said.
Motion carries. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Next item is MNC 23-0002 with report by city staff Beth Knight.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Beth Knight. I'm a senior planner with the Development Services Department, and here to give the background information for MNC 23-0002, located at 5693 West Creek Drive. The applicants are requesting a variance from the city code regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages so that the restaurant can add mixed beverages to their menu. The issue is that the restaurant is within 300 feet of at least 3 small churches. The churches in the vicinity have all sent a letter noting their support for this applicant, and I will be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Thank you, Beth. Any questions, council?
Mayor, you have one speaker.
Okay. Dr. Williams, go ahead. If you have a question for Beth, you can go ahead.
Is the applicant here for the variance?
They should be. Can you,
Okay, hi. I guess my question is related to the level of community engagement. I know that I wasn't aware of the churches submitting a letter of support, but there's also 2 school zones, whether you drive north or south on West Creek. And one of the school zones is a stone's throw literally away with 2 schools at that intersection. So I don't know if we met with the schools or had any community meetings, but I wasn't informed of those.
the schools were not necessarily noted as an item that the restaurant was close to by the inspector. We can go back and take a look at it to make sure that that wasn't missed. For that, it's 300 feet from property line to property line. So the school zone may be in the vicinity, but the property line may not have been. But we can go back and double check.
Thank you, Beth. I'm going to call our speaker. Is it Jenna Cannon? Come on down, Jenna. And she may have some answers to your questions as well, Dr. Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and guests. I'm Gina Cannon from Altex Permits in Arlington, Texas, a representative for Mr. Joaquin Miranda, who is the owner of San Antonio Mexican Food and Home Cooking, LLC, located at the address we stated above. We come to you today with 4 points asking for this variance. First, Mr. Miranda is on excellent terms with all of his business neighbors and the property owner, Mr. Raymond Malik. He has a letter of support from the property owner and the 3 churches. The reason for this is because the hours do not conflict one another. The churches mainly meet in the mornings on Saturday or Sunday mornings, and Mr. Malik's main business is in the evening. He has been a TABC permit holder for over 25 years with no calls to the police for help at his other location or any violations of reporting on time or paying his taxes. He's been at this location for 1 year and 4 months just as a Mexican food restaurant. Also, before he came into this shopping center, there was a restaurant called Meat Charita, operated for decades with an alcohol permit, with also no violations whatsoever with the police or with TABC. The past and current business owners in this shopping center have coexisted with the sale of alcohol at a restaurant, a family environment, closing early at 11 p.m., not staying open as late hours, for decades. There was another restaurant in this same shopping center, the Keys Lounge, which operated from 2008 to 2021 with an alcohol permit. So when I used to work for TABC before I started my own business, so I understand the business perspective and TABC, the state law. The state law is that if you're within, well, the state law, if you're within 1,000 feet of a school, you must notify the school in writing so they have the time to protest. You must put up a $10,000 conduct surety bond, and should you violate it in any way whatsoever, the state of Texas takes that money and then moves for you to have to put up a double bond in order to stay into business. So that is one protection that the city would have. The second thing is, the city has the ordinance that you cannot be within 300 feet of a church. In this particular shopping center, churches have come and gone. As you know, most churches that start in shopping centers grow and get their own building. So because the owner of the building, the owner supports our client applying for a mixed beverage permit in his Mexican restaurant with no late hours, and because the three churches have entered their support, we ask for you to please consider.
Thank you, Ms. Jenna.
variance.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Dr. Williams, any other questions?
No, thank you. I would like to move for a 30-day continuance so that the applicant can meet with our office. I also would like us to hold a community meeting with Wedgewood East and the two schools. I know the holiday season was happening, and so I'm sure that probably fell through the cracks of West Creek Elementary, Harmony Academy, as well as South Hills High School. So we can definitely help you set up that community meeting, and that would put us to the February 14th meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second, please vote.
Next item is MNC 23-0007.
Our first speaker is Roberto Nunez, followed by Aziz Vili.
Actually,
Valley.
Mayor, we have Beth Knight has another
Sorry,
report.
public hearing. Okay. Hi, Beth.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. We have a second MNC regarding an alcohol distance variance request. For this site, it is at 4450 Boat Club Road. The site for Valley's International Kitchen is immediately adjacent to Lake Worth High School. So they are having to ask for a variance to the city code to be able to sell mixed beverages also at late hours. And I'm available to answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you, Beth. Any questions, Councilmember Flores, before I move on? Okay.
Yes. Beth, for the record, tell us by what distance amount is that variance requested?
The variance requested is, it's a 300-foot variance request. The property lines are immediately adjacent to each other at the back corner of the restaurant. So they touch.
How long has this kitchen been in operation before the variance request?
That would be a good question for the applicant because I don't have that information.
Okay. Those are my questions so far. Mayor may have
Yeah.
some others later.
Roberto Nunez, followed by Aziz Valley.
Hello, my name is Roberto Nunez, and my address is 513 Mulberry Lane in DeSoto, Texas. I'm the applicant. I'm representing Mr. Aziz Valley. Unfortunately, he will not be able to make it. He had an emergency. So our variance request is for the property located at 4450 Boat Club. Our request is because the property is adjacent to the school, but the rear part of the school, basically the connection, the actual property line, there's a soccer field there, and there's a fence that is almost about 10 feet tall surrounding the entire school in that specific area. The front of the school, front door to the restaurant is roughly half a mile. And so there's no correlation, there's no connection from the from the actual school to the restaurant itself. The restaurant has been operating for about 5 years right now without it, but this restaurant used to have a license previously. It's just that when the new owner came in, he was not aware that he needed to renew it. And so when he came back and he did the alcohol distance measurement, it was denied because the previous license was expired. And so that's why we're asking for this request here.
So my understanding is what's triggering this request, again, is where the property lines meet on the rear, not necessarily the front. So I understand how that is measured right there. Have you or the owner made any attempts to discuss this with school representatives or the ISD?
We have primarily through phone and email, but we have not received any answer.
Okay. Because I've not seen any correspondence. When was the last time you sent correspondence to school officials?
This was before Christmas. This was before Christmas, probably a week before Christmas.
Okay, which is a difficult time to establish communication, you would
understood.
admit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Where I'm at right now is this, again, lack of correspondence. You know, my office has not been notified as to any conversations that could have been happening. I think at this point, I am leaning towards the continuance until such communication is established and, you know, I'm looped in to it, okay?
Understood.
All right.
We were just notified this week of that
I
we
see.
were in this docket. We were not sure if we were going to make it or not.
Okay,
So, yes.
I understand.
A continuance would be great.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Our next speaker was Aziz Vali.
Who is?
Okay, not coming. Perfect.
He's the
Just
owner.
making sure.
He won't make it. Sorry.
Perfect. So motion to continue. Carlos, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion and a second, please vote.
And 30 days is.
30 days,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-175.
Councilmember Beck, I know we have one speaker, but it sounds like you're ready to move forward.
Yes. First of all, thank you for taking the opportunity to meet with my office and share your vision for the project. And so move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-179.
We just did that one. We're on
No,
168.
we did 175.
No. Well, then, hold on. We'll get it straightened out.
The one earlier should have been for ZC-22-175.
Okay, so we're going to do this. We were on 179 is what you're approving, correct?
I plan to approve 175 too. So
Okay,
if we
perfect.
want to just do 175 and then.
Perfect. We'll do
Okay.
that.
All right. Motion to approve ZC-22179, just so we're clear. Yeah.
Motion to second, please vote. Yes, I think she's ready to approve. I think she talked to the applicant before. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. We can. So Ms. Silva, it sounds like she's ready to approve. Unless you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to. No, okay, perfect. You're welcome. Carlos. Sorry. Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item is ZC-22-163.
We have no speakers on this item. Councilmember Crane.
Yeah, I'm going to move to uphold the zoning commission's recommendation for denial.
Got a motion on the floor? Second. Please vote. Chris, try again. Sorry. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-168.
Travis Clegg. Quote, Councilmember Bivens.
I'm going to move to approve, and we're going to leave it for 5 years. Move to approve. Come on, give me
Motion, a sec, thank you. Motion, a second, please vote.
Sorry, Gina.
Okay.
Long day.
Next item is ZC-22-169.
Motion, a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-189.
We have one speaker on this item, Councilmember Nettles, Johnny Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Johnny Rodriguez. I'm a representative for Ameritex Homes. We purchased this property maybe 2 years ago, somewhere around there. It's been zoned medium industrial for about a decade now without any development. So when we purchased it, it was missed by our vetting process. We were under the impression that it was zoned residential due to all the single-family homes in the area. And since then, we tried to put it back on the market to sell, but because of the area, it hasn't sold. So we came up with the process to rezone in order to build a single-family home. As I said, I'm representing for Ameritex Homes. We have a proven track record for improving areas that we build homes in, and our homes are affordable and more, more appealing than alternatives that are currently in the area. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from Councilmember Nettles?
No, no questions. Thank you for coming out. I will just say, maybe just for other people, because when I'm approving something, I just approve. I normally don't do extra talking, like some people. But I want to thank him for, he gave his site plan as well as the housing that he's going to build. And so in future, those that want to do things like that, please present those. So thank you, sir, for doing that. So motion for approval.
Motion, a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-191.
Councilmember Nettles?
Is the applicant here? Okay. Okay, because I think on this one, I instructed them to talk to the neighborhood, and I don't think I got information back if they spoke with the neighborhood. So I do know I have a denial on staff and zoning. So I'm asking my commissioner to forgive me for this one. I do want to continue this for 30 days to the next zoning meeting so that I can get a understanding of exactly what they want to do and if they have met with the community before I deny it. Thank you.
Please vote.
Motion carried. Next item is ZC-22-193.
Councilmember Bivens?
Is the applicant present? If not, whoever you are, thank you for wanting to build where people said nobody will build houses. I move for approval.
Motion, a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-195.
Councilmember Beck? Xavier Loza?
Mayor, he's on 199.
Sorry. I'm running on low sleep, 195. So just kidding, you're not up yet.
Okay.
You can sit right there in the front row, so you don't have to walk back up those stairs. My apologies. So Councilmember Beck, there's no speakers on this item.
We're going to blame it on a frog hangover.
Yeah,
There's
in many ways.
The jet lag. I'm going to continue this for 30 days and give the applicant the opportunity to reach out to my office. Thank you.
Second.
Motion to second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-196.
Councilmember Bivens.
Ms. Solis builds a wonderful product. I move for approval with appreciation.
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-199.
There we are. Xavier Loza, excuse me. Come on up.
I'll make it quick, I promise. Hello, my name is Xavier. I'm here in regards to 3760 Waldorf. I'm hoping to rezone this property from an MU1 to an A5. Currently, there are a few residential homes surrounding the lot. A new build will not only bring a fresh feeling, but a new start for the family and surrounding neighborhoods. And MU1 allows me to build a townhome or possibly a duplex or split the lots. With the lot being so long and not very wide, it kind of places my
I know how those lots are.
So it's the design of the property placement of the lot. So I would like to build a 2,300 square foot home on this lot.
And I want you to do that too. I know that it was recommended for denial, but anyone who wants to bring quality homes to my district, especially Stop 6, yeah, I'm supporting that. But what I need you to do is give us 30 days for continuance. And please meet with my office, need to meet with the community. I want to see that house built, but we do need to have some engagement. Make sure you have a site plan, and you can send anything to me as soon as you can. And with that, I move for continuance until February 14th.
Motion and a second, please vote.
Thank you.
We will work it out.
Jared.
I'm ready to vote. There he is.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-200.
We have two speakers on this item. Councilmember Nettles. First is Rebecca Flores Castro, followed by Ray Ayala.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Flores Castro. I'm at 2029 North Main Street in Fort Worth. Distinguished Mayor Parker and council members, thank you for considering this zoning request. Sluggers Youth Academy is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that develops young baseball and softball athletes. We use training, resources, and life skills to implement on and off the field. This project is a local effort with plans to improve opportunities for youth and residents, not only in the immediate neighborhood, but also across the entire city. If approved, this development may provide a tournament-size youth sports complex, bringing local, state, and national visitors to our great city. A year-round indoor training facility, increased exposure for local athletes, community programs, conservation, and park equity initiatives, and not to mention revenue to local businesses. Our intention is to collaborate with the City of Fort Worth, neighbors, schools, businesses, and other nonprofits in hopes of maximizing the impact this project offers. If approved, I invite each and every one of you to learn more about our programs and how it will help your residents. On behalf of our organization, I humbly request the approval of this zoning change. With your help, we can positively invest in our children and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our next speaker is Ray Ayala.
Actually, I was just going to speak only if there was opposition, so.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Nettles.
Thank you. Yes, there is no opposition that I see. I have 5 letters of support. But also, I just want to thank you for doing your due diligence. After you met with me, I asked you to go to the community. You've done that. You guys have done great work in District 8 already. And so I'm excited to see what you're going to do. Maybe if there's any will, you can teach me how to play baseball. I'm not sure. This is election season, so I'm not sure if I'm coming back. But if I can get a career in baseball, that would be great. So I motion to approve this.
Motion and a second.
What you say? Oh, they're not miracle workers?
He's hopeless, but I think his kids could absolutely
Yes, my
redeem the
kids could
last
try.
name. Yeah.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Next item is ZC-22-203.
We have one speaker, only as opposition, Mary Nell Poole, and I don't think there is Leonard.
Move to approve.
And please vote.
Next item is ZC-22-204.
Our first speaker is Andrew Wiley, wishes to speak only if there's opposition. I can't tell if there is, so I may call on J.D. Jimerson first. Is J.D. here? Come on down, J.D.
Hello, Mayor, City Council, and everybody else is here. I come to say that I didn't vote to be against the project. Well, what I am saying is that the neighborhood needed to be advised of what they're planning to place in the area. We need to have some input and some coordination because there are numerous apartment complexes that have been placed there over the years. The last one is part of the neighborhood organization. We had some infrastructure issues. So we don't know what they plan to do in addition to place the apartments there, or whatever it is they're bringing in. But we need to make sure that it's compatible with what exists now. And we'd like to have some coordination with them, with the community as representatives. That was my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Jimerson.
Thank you.
I think in light of Mr. Jimerson's comments, I'll call Andrew Wiley.
I spoke with Councilmember Flores earlier today, and we're going to request a continuance for 30 days. We have reached out to the Historic Society.
Brenda Waddell, who's the president of the Far Greater Northside Historical.
There you go. We've reached out to Ms. President Waddell, and we will have a meeting in 30-day continuance if Councilman Flores is for it.
Councilmember Flores?
Yes, and first let me say thank you, for being here, Mr. Hendren, and also thank you, JD, for being here. When I spoke to you back in December to let you know to check to see if, the applicant had communicated with you at the time, you told me that you also did not get that communication.
I didn't turn you off, I
Yeah.
promise.
There we go, okay. The only communication so far that has been going on is with the Northwest Alliance, which is good, but it's not complete. So I was prepared already to continue this, and I'm going to continue it for 30 days. I believe that the Far Greater Northside Historical NA's next meeting is first Thursday of the month, which would place it the 2nd of February. Is that correct, JD? You can come up to the podium. I just want to make sure there's enough time for you to meet. Come up to the podium, JD, please.
Yeah, you're correct. We do have that meeting planned for that date, but we'd like to have some information to review prior to that meeting so we can go over it.
100%.
Okay, so.
Correct. They don't.
I would be the person, I'm the person that texts you from Brenda Waddell's phone. Okay. That was me.
We'll connect in just 1 second. You and I will.
Yeah, all right, we can work it out.
We can.
Okay, right.
And for continuance.
You have your
thank you,
marching
Ferris.
orders, Andrew, whatever information you have. I know you don't have a site plan yet, but get with them like you did with the Northwest Alliance and have a meeting with them, and any information you can impart prior to that meeting, share it with them so they can have an opportunity to look at it. 30-day continuance.
Will do. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-206.
Councilmember Crane, we have one speaker, Daniel Smith. There he is. Daniel.
Evening, Mayor Parker, council members, staff. I had a presentation, but I can go without it. My name is Daniel Smith. I'm representing the developer / applicant. I am not the current property owner. This project, this is an express in, it's zone neighborhood commercial. It's approximately 96 keys. We would like to acquire it, rezone it to a planned development multifamily with 55 units. So we'd like to reduce the density down to 41 units. The goal and the reason for the partnership is it's inspired by Casa de Esperanza, which is a similar partnership between Ohala Partners, the city of Fort Worth, as well as Fort Worth Housing Solutions. And so the difference in between that one and this one is that this would be targeting families that are experiencing homelessness. And so it would be Ohala Partners, Fort Worth Housing Solutions, and then Tarrant County has stepped up and agreed to provide some funding to help this happen. So the goal is very similar. It's to acquire it, to substantially renovate all the units, bring in all the amenities, bring in these supportive services that with the relationships that we've established with a lot of our different nonprofit and for-profit partners like Presbyterian Night Shelter, My Health, My Resources, and a lot of these other folks. So the project, it aligns with the Las Vegas Trail and the City of Fort Worth Neighborhood Services Las Vegas Trail Neighborhood Improvement Program that they put into place. And so there's been lots of strides of progress that the city has made here. I think we have support from our neighbors to the west. LVT Rise has given a support letter, as well as Fort Worth ISD. So
And as Daniel's talking, Melissa has this presentation. Just throw up some of those pictures. I don't want to take any of Councilmember Crane's thunder, but I can imagine your excitement, Councilmember Crane, and what the potential is here.
If you want to show them, just so people, what I'm excited about this is we were taking an infested motel that we know children have been trafficked at, drugs, crime across the board, and turning it into this where we're going to help some of our most vulnerable population live as families. I forgot what the numbers that came out in December, families that are living in their cars, but they need the permanent supportive support that will happen here to get back on their feet. So I'm proud of this. I'm proud of the partnership is happening here and bringing some real change to the area.
The architect went a little bit crazy on the renderings, so we may not have the Porsches and the Mustangs out there, but they've certainly set the bar high for us. So if you have any questions, I'm here. If not, thank you.
No, with that, I enthusiastically move to approve. Thank you.
Motion and a second. That's a big deal, Michael. Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely. Gina. Carries.
Next item is ZC-22-208.
One speaker, Daniel Hendren, only if there's opposition, which I don't think there is any. Councilmember Flores.
That is correct, Mayor. There is no opposition. I did attempt to make contact with Crossings Fossil Creek. The developer did provide me with some correspondence that they've had with them. Similarly with, the other persons that he made an outreach to, and there is no indication of opposition, so I move for approval.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-225.
Councilmember Beck.
I'm going to move to approve with some amendments to this particular item. And I just want to be clear, the amendments that we're making put these types of facilities in line with the same way we treat bars. So it's slightly more restrictive than what we initially saw on the agenda, and I think it's a step in the right direction to make sure we're limiting some spaces that can often bring some unwanted characters or uses in and around it. So with that, I move to approve ZC 22-225 with the following changes. Amend Section 2 in the ordinance to allow retail smoke shop as an allowed use in the following zoning districts: F, general commercial; G, intensive commercial; H, central business district; I, light industrial; J, medium industrial; and K, heavy industrial. Furthermore, amend Section 3 in the ordinance to not allow retail smoke shops as an allowed use in the MU1 low-intensity mixed-use zoning district. Thank you.
In a second, please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-209.
No speakers on this item. Councilmember Nettles.
Just a second. I closed my book. Oh, yes, move to approve.
Vote.
I'm telling you.
Motion carries. Next item is ZC-23-003.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 23-0011.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0012. Next item is MMC 23-0006.
In a second, please vote. As we're voting, special thanks to Dana Bergdorf and David Cook for shepherding this through. We appreciate you. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0056.
Motion and a second, please vote. Bring new equipment to Bernie Park, Richard. I'm kidding. He's on it.
Next item is MNC. Can I read the number first, please? Next item is MNC 23-0013.
Motion and a second, please vote. This was your chance to say gig 'em, Michael, and you didn't even do it. There you go. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 23-0014.
Second, please vote.
Motion carries. Mayor, that concludes all of the agenda items.
Thank you, Council.
The second hot topic for me was street racing, right? My family at John T. White and my family over in Miller, more importantly, Miller Street, was chaotic. We had a small area at Miller and Hardeman where we maybe had about 800 to 1,000 people that were congregating there, doing donuts, racing up and down the street. I mean, it was a scary sight to see, and I shared this with the people at the fireworks committee so they could know that what some of the barriers we face when we're trying to address fireworks, right? And so our sisters and brothers over in Dallas, they have been dealing with street racing for quite some time, but they had got it minimized to such a level that it wasn't even a concern for them anymore. So I allowed for one of my sergeants who is here, and I'll let him speak here shortly, Sergeant Walker, and for officers to go over there and learn how they were doing it without even having a pursuit policy. And so they went over there and got some key ideas and brought it back home. So I'm gonna let Sergeant Walker kind of introduce that. You got it.
How you guys doing? My name's Sergeant Matt Walker. I work for y'all. I'm a patrol sergeant here on East Side. I got sent to Dallas to have a task force that deals with street racing. They're very successful, so much so that we started to see it grow more here because they were leaving there. I've been working with the city. I've contacted the city attorney. We've talked about different ways that we could be better here in Fort Worth about dealing with it. We're aware of it. I see it. It's going on all sides of town also. But I understand what you are saying. And believe me, I've been working. You ask anybody in uniform in here or anybody in uniform in the city of Fort Worth, they'll tell you, you ask who the street racing guy is, they'll say, yeah, I'm working on it, and I annoy the crap out of them by talking about it, so they know about it, all right?
Tell them about some of the successes we've had thus far just on East Division.
So my whole thing with this is these guys are driving a lot faster cars than we are. Chasing them is dangerous. It is, and so we've started using different techniques in order to actually make arrests on these guys and without having to chase them, which is, I think, is key because they have a tendency to always run. But there's been about 14 incidences where we've managed to make an arrest on some of these. At least 9 guns were recovered in all of these, so these aren't like the safest things. Lots of drugs. I mean, I understand what's happening, and I know, has anybody in here been trapped in one of these before? Ever seen one of these? What about a...
It's called a takeover. Yes. Takeover, they take over an intersection and don't allow any traffic, other traffic to come through.
It's two different, yeah, there's 2 different things I'm speaking of when I speak of street racing. I am talking about the takeovers where they take over an intersection, hundreds of people, sometimes 1,000 plus, sometimes it's a parking lot. And then I'm also talking about the drag racing, which is scary.